Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 48 of A Yank on the Footy. I'm Craig Wessels from Sandusky, Ohio, and I'm glad that you're listening. We're sprinting to the finals right now with only the final round to go. And before I get into my tips for round 18, I wanted to touch on a couple of stories that came about over the last week. And I want to dive into a couple of other things as we get going as well. I hope everyone has had a fantastic week. Been a little crazy around my house. One morning last week, one of my dogs got sprayed by a skunk while we were outside. Well, while they were outside, I was getting ready to come into school. And we occasionally get skunks in our neighborhood, and hadn't encountered one in my yard for quite a while. Pretty sure that she ran right into the skunk head on in the garage, because she's not necessarily an aggressive dog, but she's a dog that isn't afraid to confront anything, quite often out of curiosity. And for those of you who have never encountered the spray of a skunk or the odor of a skunk, and I talked to a couple people online who weren't sure of what that would be all about, I don't exactly know how to describe it other than to say that it's the most powerful, or one of the most powerful, pungent, vile odors that you're ever going to encounter. And if you're ever considering making a trip to visit the U.S., you should check out some of our more specialized fragrances that we have to offer, like skunk. Oh boy, a lot of fun. And one of the things you can do to help get rid of that odor is use tomato juice. And well, I had a couple bottles of tomato juice in the cupboard for this very reason. I don't drink tomato juice. I'm not a big fan of it. And they've been in there for several years, so by now it might have actually been tomato wine. I don't know. But in conjunction with some baby shampoo, we were able to get rid of a good chunk of the smell that she had on her. And later that evening gave her another bath or shower, if you will, with a specialized shampoo that chemically balances out or countermands the skunk spray. So she's pretty much back to normal, with the exception of a couple little spots around her jowls where I just cannot get rid of the smell. But I'm going to trim the hair back there, and she's just going to have to look funny for a little while. Borrowed a live trap from one of my neighbors in hopes of catching the skunk and then being able to remove it properly and permanently from my yard. Well, the skunk had other plans. I'd sealed up my garage. I'd closed up the garage door where he was, and I saw him in the garage. And I went back out to check the trap at around midnight, and he had pulled the inner lining and all of the insulation off of about a circle with a circumference, or a radius of about a foot, in the bottom panel of my large garage door, which is where the car comes in. And I had insulation all over the floor. So at around midnight that night, I realized that one way or the other, that skunk is going through that door. Either he's going to tear a hole in it, which is going to cause a huge expense, or I'm going to go ahead and leave the door open about 6 inches to allow him to crawl out overnight, which I did. Skunk's gone, but I've still got to do some repairs to the garage door. Of course, thought that's the end of it. Things are all better. The next day, I'm downstairs doing a load of laundry, and I find a snake in the laundry sink in my basement. This is the third snake I've found in my yard this year. I haven't found one ever in the previous 24 years that we've lived in this house, so I don't know what's going on here, but fortunately I did not have any locusts flying around my house when I got up today. So I wanted to dive into a few stories from round 18 and from round 17 and leading into round 18. And first off, I have a couple things I need to address before I jump in. I want to give a big shout out of thanks to Orville Gibson from Queensland. He sent me a Cats football, one that has the signatures of the players from the 2005 Cats club on there. So, and also a great sticker. I just haven't decided what I want to put it on yet. I'll find a spot for it, but I haven't figured out where I want to put it yet, because it looks like it's been around for a while. It looks like a really cool classic sticker, so it's a fantastic gift. Orville, I can't thank you enough. I do have to fess up. I have not shipped the box to you yet. It is all set up on the table right by my front door to get to the post office. I've just not been able to get to the post office yet, or I've not gone to the post office. I'm certainly able to get there. I just haven't made it there yet. Hopefully that's going to happen this week. Maybe I can get my wife involved to have her help me out, because she does a lot of stuff with shipping from where she works, so maybe she can take care of that for me. And I also wanted to thank Darren Green for some great insight about the city of Cairns. I mispronounced it last week, and I know I'm probably sounding like a fool when I did it, and if you listen to last week's episode, everybody's probably hollering at your phone or your computer. That's not how we pronounce it. But Darren is the founder and president of the Richmond RVA Lions, Australian Rules Football Club here in the state of Virginia. And he lived in Cairns for a number of years, and he corrected me with the pronunciation and gave me a lot of great links online to help learn a little bit more about the city, because I was speculating that it seemed to rain there all the time, because every game I think I've ever watched out of that city, it's been raining. So Darren, thanks a bunch for the help there and helping me correct my my pronunciation. So I truly appreciate it. Now, I've got to ask you, and I just want to toss this out here. Has there been a better goal this year than Brent Daniels' dribble kick against the D's? That was fantastic. I think that's a goal that Eddie Betts had to look at and say, I don't know if I could have done that. Now, I'm sure he has, but that was a fantastic goal. Just it did not look like it had a shot at going in, and it made that huge right turn at the last moment. So I think it's got a shot at goal of the year. Have you got a better one? Is there a better one that you've seen this year that maybe I missed? I haven't watched every game, but maybe there's one that you have seen that I was not aware of. But I think that's got to be in the consideration for goal of the year. Now, round 18 has the possibility of 10 teams moving up and down the ladder this round. And I think that's something that the competition has to be thrilled about. That sure, there are only a few spots that are still available in terms of who could possibly be playing finals, but the fact that there is still that fluidity going into the final round of the fixture has to give the powers that be in the league some pride, if you will, of realizing that they've thus far been able to pull off a pretty good competition in a really, really set of trying circumstances. And you got basically 4 teams that are battling for the 7th and 8th spots, and the 2 that are in 7 and 8 right now could very easily drop out. The Saints, Bulldogs, Giants, and D's are battling for those spots, and like I said, 8 of the 9 games this round are going to have a direct impact on the ladder, and I don't think you could ask for more than that. But I guess, yeah, sure, 9 out of 9, but it's amazing that each of those games is going to have something to say about where different teams finish on the ladder. The Suns and Hawks contest is the only one that's not going to have a direct impact. Now, with this being the final round, there are a handful of players who have announced that they're going to be stepping away from the game, or they've already announced that they're going to be doing it. And Adelaide's Bryce Gibbs retired effective the last round, as did Matthew Cruiser from Carleton. Cade Simpson's playing his last round as well. Tom Belchambers and Connor McKenna of the Bombers are stepping away from the game. Pierce Hanley from the Gold Coast Suns are stepping away. And just saw yesterday, I noticed that Paul Puopolo and Ben Stratton have announced that their matchup with the Suns is going to be their final game of their career as well. And if you add it up, it's 1,601 AFL games played by these gentlemen. And gents, I just want to give you a hat tip for great careers, for providing great entertainment for the fans of this game, for the members of your club throughout your careers, and congratulations, and I wish you best of luck in your future endeavors. Now, I'm recording this sitting in my classroom at 6:20 a.m., And about this time yesterday, I was watching the AFL's version of a Phoenix Rising, if you will. And Mason Cox, well, he turned the clock back yesterday. Let's be honest. He has been very maligned, and he's struggled to find his way back into the 22 with the club. In some cases, you could argue he ended up back out there simply because of the sheer volume of injuries that the club has had. But yesterday, what he did was very reminiscent of the 2018 finals contest that he had. And, if my fellow Yank, and I know he's on his way to becoming an Australian citizen, and by now he may already be, can make this kind of an impact going into the finals. And, the Pies are getting healthy again with Jordan DeGoey and Adam Treloar back, and the prospect of a few other players possibly getting back as finals come around. Is this a club that could duplicate what the Bulldogs did back in 2016? I mean, they're a talented club. Those folks that don't like the Magpies, I don't think you can deny that they've got as much, if not more, talent than most clubs that are out there. And if they're getting healthy at the right time, there's nothing to say that they can't win this whole darn thing. So, this year's finals should absolutely be crazy. And while I'm looking forward to this last round to see how things shake out, I can't wait to see what happens next in the finals, because it's going to be exciting. And I know that some people think that there should be an asterisk with this year because there's fewer games and it's not playing at home, etc. But they're playing footy, and I'm thrilled about seeing it. And the last thing I wanted to do before I jumped into the tips for this week is, this is kind of on a personal level for myself here. 4 years ago, I made the decision to become a Cat supporter. And, it's a decision that I certainly don't regret. I'm thrilled to be a Cat supporter. I've interacted with countless Cat supporters online, people who I have lengthy conversations with on a regular basis, whether it be through direct messages on Twitter or instant message on Facebook, that sort of thing. I'm engaging with Cat supporters. Now, I'm engaging with supporters of other clubs as well. But I've been welcomed with open arms into the virtual cattery, if you will. Now, the one regret that I might have is that I really don't look very good in hoops, but that's my fault. That's nothing else. But the player that ultimately pushed me in the direction of becoming a Cat supporter, I think I mentioned it way back in episode number 1, but if you hadn't listened to that one, it's not who you might think. It's not the big goal kicking key forward. I was hoping that he would be the reason that my wife would become a fan of the game. That hasn't worked out yet. It's not one of the two devil-may-care midfielders who've already established themselves as stars in the game and are future Hall of Famers. It wasn't them. It was a young kid who I didn't know any different, who played with this frenetic energy and wasn't afraid to mix it up all over the grounds. He had blazing speed. He tackled like a freight train and did all of it with a huge smile on his face, which, made me think, this is somebody I could gravitate towards watching, because he looks like he's having a hell of a lot of fun doing it. And that player was Nakia Cockatoo. And unfortunately, since I made that decision to become a Cat supporter because of him, number 5 has had a really difficult time getting and staying healthy with a myriad of injuries. He's had a lot of lower leg injuries, a lot of hamstring, knee injuries, that sort of thing. This year he's battled back. His legs have been healthy, and he was able to make a lot of contributions in the club scratch matches, but he was not able, and he was pushing to get into the 22. There was a lot of speculation that he would get a game here and there. It didn't happen. And unfortunately, he suffered a wrist injury a couple of weeks ago during one of the scratch matches and had been trying to play through it, but I guess it's become progressively worse. And the club is having him head back to Melbourne to have surgery on that wrist. And as well as the birth of his first child, he and his partner are having their first baby, which is fantastic news. But he would, I think, would have been heading back for that. And I want to congratulate he and his partner for this upcoming berth. But I think I've been following the game long enough to realize that this may very well have an impact on Nakia Cockatoo's future with the Cats. Now, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's out of contract this year. He's not played in an AFL game since 2018. And I have no idea, and some of you would have better insight about this. I have no idea if the leadership thinks that it's a good idea to set aside a spot for him on the list for next year. You couple that with his injury history, which he seemed, other than the wrist that he just had, he seems to have been healthy this year. He just wasn't able to get a game. You couple that with the fact that the AFL may be reducing the size of the lists next year, and that proverbial handwriting might be on the wall. So it's very possible Nakia Cockatoo may be, following Lincoln McCarthy, and playing for a different club next year. I certainly get it. Sports is a cutthroat business, and here's hoping that he can find success in the AFL in 2021. Hopefully, he can find great health. Hopefully, it's with the Cats. I don't know if it's going to be, but I hope so. But if not, wherever he happens to land, I hope he has success. I hope he's healthy with whatever club picks him up, because I think he still has the skill set to be a dynamic player in the game. He's got fantastic speed. He's got a nose for the ball, and I really hope that things work out for him, because if I'm not mistaken, he still, despite all of this, is only 23 years old. And I know that some people, the mindset is, well, yeah, that's 4 or 5 years into a career there in the competition, but I think he's still got a lot of games left in him if he gets the opportunity wherever it may be. So hoping he's still with the Cats, but we shall see. Now, before I wrap up, I did want to get into my tips for the final round. Had an okay week last week. I got 6 out of 9. I missed out on the Cats game, and missed out on the Giants game as well, and the Blues yet again. So here are my tips for round 18 in the order that the games are being played. So we got West Coast in North Melbourne. I've got West Coast winning this one by 25. Might be a higher number than that. And unless the Cats falter this week, the Eagles are pretty much locked into the 5th spot on the ladder. They could move up. They do have a shot at a double chance. So I think that the Eagles are going to do everything they possibly can to ensure that they win this game. So I don't think they're going to take the Kangaroos lightly. I fully expect them, even though they've been beat up a little bit in terms of injuries in the last couple of rounds, I think they'll outclass North on Thursday, and they're going to win this one by several goals. And they're going to hold out hope that Sydney knocks off the Cats to allow them to get a shot at the second or double chance once the finals come about. Now, St. Kilda and GWS, and I've got St. Kilda winning this one by 6 points. On paper, you would think that the Port Adelaide and Collingwood game looks like the game of the round, and maybe it is. It's the final game, but I think in reality that this game is the most important. The Saints have been in many ways kind of the darlings of the competition this year. Everybody's been excited, well, maybe not excited, but everybody's been impressed with the way that they've played throughout most of the year. They've been in the top 4 quite a bit, but over the last 4 rounds, they've been in a free fall. They've lost 3 out of 4. And the Giants have been enigmatic at best this year, and they've lost 3 out of their last 5, yet they still have a shot at making the finals. And they need help. They need both the Bulldogs and the D's to lose, and they also need to beat the Saints. Now, the Saints, if they lose and the Bulldogs and D's win, they could possibly drop out of the 8 completely. I mean, that would finish their collapse for the year. So both of these teams must win this game, and I think it's going to be a total slug. I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think this is going to be, like I said, I think this is going to be the best game of the week. Okay? So I've got it being a close game. I've got St. Kilda winning it by 6 points. Now moving on to Melbourne and Essendon. I've got the D's winning this one by 16. They've dropped 3 out of their last 5, but they're still on the cusp of earning a spot in the 8. A lot of these teams that are going in to those final spots are kind of backing in or trying to just hang on. Okay? I think the Bulldogs might be the exception to that. But like I said, they've dropped 3 out of their last 5, they're a talented club, but they've been up and down every aspect of the season. They've been very enigmatic, like the Giants have been, and they need the Dockers to knock off the Bulldogs in order to have a shot at getting in. But, the Bombers, let's be honest, I think they just want this season over. They want a fresh start moving on to 2021. They've got some players that are leaving the club. They've, in terms of retirement, they've got others that may be leaving due to wanting to get out of their situation and move on to another club. I'm hearing, seeing rumors that the Cats might be interested in Joe Danaher. Talented player when he's healthy, but I don't know. I think that in the great grand scheme of things, the Cats have got a lot of picks this year, and I have no idea what the draft is like because I'm not that in tune into things. But I think they could certainly use as much of an injection of youth as they possibly could. So I don't know if they're going to use any of that draft capital in order to try to bring Joe Danaher to Geelong. Now we've got Richmond and Adelaide playing one another, and I've got Richmond winning this one by 12 points. And the Tigers, they outclassed the Cats last weekend. As you know, I'm a Cat supporter, and they outplayed the Cats. And a hat tip to Richmond. They are the defending premiers for a reason. They're a good club, okay? And they have, pretty much locked themselves into a top 4 spot. I don't think they can actually drop out of that. That being the case, I think that they, need to knock off the Crows, because I believe West Coast could possibly jump up to 3 if things went well. The Crows have been providing a ton of excitement these last few weeks. They've won 3 in a row. And again, I've said this all season. They've played hard every game I've watched, and I've seen 8 or 9 of their games. And I plan on going back and watching others over our winter time because, having the app, it lets me do that sort of thing. And, they have had an opportunity to play spoiler in these last couple rounds. They knocked off the Blues and basically, eliminated the Blues from finals chances. They dealt a serious blow to the Giants a couple weeks, ago in terms of playing finals as well. And like I said, while I think that the Tigers are going to win this game, I'm supremely confident that Matthew Nix is going to have this group ready to play. They're going to play hard. They're going to be pesky. They're going to give the Tigers everything that they want. And I think the Tigers, in many ways, will be thankful for that because it's going to be a great jumping-off point going into finals because they have, they're going to be facing better clubs or a better club the following week, but they certainly don't want this to be a game that they just kind of coast through. And I think Adelaide's going to give them everything they want. It's like I said, it's going to give the Tigers some headaches as they go along here. And wouldn't it be fantastic, though, if you're a Crows supporter, if they're able to knock off the Tigers? Bryce Gibbs is retiring after this season. It wouldn't be great if they, won this one for him. I don't think it's going to happen. Now, I've said that several times where I've picked against the Crows, and they've proved me wrong. But I think that the Tigers are going to win this one. Now, Brisbane and Carlton. I've got Brisbane winning this one by 15. The Lions, they have a shot at earning the minor premiership. And, the Blues are licking their wounds from the last 4 rounds, where they've dropped 3 of those games. Eric Hipwood has had a fantastic game last round, and I think the Lions are going to do everything they possibly can, to try to ensure that they play every game the rest of the way at the GABA. So there's no possibility of them having to play a finals contest elsewhere. So I think they're going to go for it and try to win this one. The Blues, they've got to be a little down in the dumps because they got eliminated and they lost their opportunity to play finals. I think it's still going to be a good competition, but I think that Brisbane needs this game more than anything, and I think they're going to go ahead and take this one by 2.5 goals and then wait and see what happens with Collingwood and Port Adelaide as to see whether or not they jump up to be the minor premiers. And the game that you could argue doesn't mean much this year, I've got Gold Coast beating Hawthorn by 14. And the Suns, they pushed the Magpies pretty hard last week. I guess that was technically yesterday. And I think they're going to want to finish the season on a high note. And there's a lot of things to look forward to at Gold Coast. Hopefully their membership increases over this coming summertime for them, and the excitement that they've shown through many of their games this year leads to higher attendance and the possibility of maybe bringing in even a larger collection of quality players to help them become a more relevant team than they already are. I think the needle is definitely pointing upwards for the Suns, and I think that the Hawks are realizing that they are facing a lengthy rebuild. Both of these teams, they're playing for the future with, I think the Suns being much closer to being a finals club than the Hawks are. Okay, so I've got Gold Coast winning this one by 14. And then we get to the Cats and the Swans. And I've got Geelong winning this one by 23 points. The Cats, they struggled mightily against Richmond, and like I said, you got to tip your cap to them. I saw some Cat supporters that were saying that that maybe they were content just getting through the game healthy and saving their bullets, if you will, for finals. And maybe that makes sense because, had this been a game they had to win, I think Joel Selwood probably would have played. Maybe they would have brought Reece Stanley back in. Gary Rowan, and I mentioned this in a couple postings online. Gary Rowan, for somebody who does not mark the ball very often, he sure does an awful lot with those marks when he takes them. And the Tigers did a masterful job of locking down Tom Hawkins last week. And I think part of that was simply the fact that they did not have Gary Rowan as a distractor in the forward 50 where you had to account for him because he's slashing through and taking marks that people aren't looking for or expecting to have happen. And he wasn't there to do that, so it allowed the Tigers defense to spend more time focusing on Hawkins, realizing that there were not a whole lot of other goal-scoring threats that the Cats had available to them. I think that the Tigers were playing with a fairly healthy group at the outset. They lost Ivan Soldo, looks like for the year, looks like some sort of a ligament injury. Tom Lynch had a hamstring issue, and he may sit out this game with the Crows in order to help him get healthy for finals. I will be shocked if he actually plays this week. And like I said, I think Soldo is going to be done for the year. And the Cats, I'm not sure what they're going to do as far as who they're going to bring back into the side this round, but you've got Gary Ablett Jr. there. You've got Joel Selwood ready to come back in. You've got Gary Rowan ready to come back in, hopefully. You got Reece Stanley, who's coming back off of an injury. And maybe they're going to get some minutes this round to help get them ready for the before the qualifying final contest. I don't know. Certainly, if you're sitting there thinking, okay, I have to bring 4 players back into my roster or into my list of 22 for my game, that's not bad right there when you're bringing in 2 Hall of Famers. That's not a bad thing to have happen. So, the Swans, they played some good footy this year. They've been very competitive. And I think they've got a large injury list. They lost most of their talls this year, and they dropped 4 out of their last 5. And I think they're going to put up a good fight, but I just think that Geelong is too strong of a club, and I think they want to do everything they possibly can to ensure that they don't drop out of the top 4 because they would like to have that double chance. So they may rest a player or 2 here and there, but I still think they're going to do everything they can to ensure that they stay top 4. We've got the Bulldogs and the Dockers, and I've got the Bulldogs winning this one by 9. Now, this is a must-win for the Bulldogs. If they win, they're in. Okay, if they win, they're in. And that being said, I don't think the Dockers are going to make it easy for them. Fremantle has played pretty solid footy all year. Defensively, they're one of the better clubs in the competition, I think. You go back and you look at some of the results of their games, they've had their opponents in a stranglehold for much of the season. And I think that they don't have a shot at playing finals now. They got close. This is another club, I think, along with Gold Coast, whose needle is definitely pointing upward. And I won't be shocked if both of them are playing finals next year. They're going to give the Bulldogs everything they can handle. But I think the Bulldogs have enough talent there that they're able to get this win. So I've got them winning this one by 9. And who knows, maybe they are looking to repeat 2016. Which leads me to the last game for the year. And that's Port Adelaide and Collingwood. And I've got Port Adelaide winning this one by 8 points. Both of these clubs are playing finals. Port's going to be top 2 regardless. So even if they lose this game, they're playing top 2. The Pies could end up anywhere between the 6 and the 8 spots. And I think, that Port, I think they're being given an opportunity to play an opening round game at the Adelaide Oval. But similar to what Brisbane is doing, I think that they would want to ensure that they could play as many games in Adelaide as they possibly could before finals. So I think that they're going to go out there and try to win this one and ensure that they get to play the first game, maybe the first 2 games before, if they keep playing at the Adelaide Oval rather than having to go back up to the Gabba or go elsewhere to play. Again, I think the Pies could certainly win this, and I think it's going to be a very close game. The Pies are getting healthy at the right time. They may be very well repeating the actions of the 2016 Bulldogs. Having been decimated by injuries, people having written them off as they're not a factor this year. And lo and behold, here they are. So they're getting healthy at the right time, and I think this is going to be a great fight to wrap up the 2020 fixture. I've got Port Adelaide winning it, and I could be completely wrong on that. Okay, so there's my tips for this week's games, the final week of the season. Again, please don't take my advice. Don't do any tipping on my account and say, well, yeah, because he said it is. I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, I still don't know. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my set of tips for this week. And don't forget, if you'd like to sign up for the mailing list so that you can get each new episode to deliver to you first, there's a link to a short form in the show notes. It's a couple questions, for your email address, that type of thing. What team do you support? I'd love to add you to the list and get that show out to you as soon as it comes out. For some reason, my most recent episode did not load on Stitcher. So if you have been listening to the show on the Stitcher app, which is actually the app that I listen to podcasts on myself, I just kind of like the way it functions better than some of the others. Hopefully this episode will load there, or otherwise you won't know that this one isn't there either. Also, if you've got any an idea for a show topic, or like I had said before, a guest that you think should come on the show, maybe it's you, shoot me a DM on Twitter or an email at yankonthefooty@gmail.com. I'd absolutely love to hear from you. Hopefully you've got some great ideas. And don't forget that while you can find all of the episodes for this podcast at yankonthefooty.podbean.com, you can also find it through your favorite podcast provider. So if you just search a Yank on the Footy, your favorite search engine, it'll give you all sorts of different places you can listen to it. And now that you've listened, I hope you'll consider giving me a review on Apple Podcasts. It lets me know what I need to work on, what you think I'm doing well, and it also lets the podcast host know that you like the show, and maybe it makes it a little easier to find on their platform. And don't forget that you can also reach me at yankonthefooty@gmail.com and on Twitter at yank_on, as well as on Facebook and Instagram at a Yank on the Footy. I want to thank Joseph McDade for the use of a couple of pieces of his music. Mr. McDade's created some fantastic music. I'm using the pieces Backplate and Elevation. You can find him at josephmcdade.com/music. You can also find him on Spotify as well. And if you haven't done so yet, I invite you to sign up for the mailing list. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for listening because, well, we're fans of our clubs deep down. We're fans of a game that we all love, and that's the game of footy. We've got, I believe, 7 of the 9 games this week being aired here in the United States. And, this round kicks off on Thursday. And if you're not on board with this game, folks, you should be. Okay? It is a fantastic game. I know the NFL season has started. My Browns started off like I expected them to do. They laid an egg. And for those of you who are just starting to watch the games here in the U.S. and Canada, don't forget that Australian rules football, it's why they invented the DVR. Again, thanks so much for listening. And I ask that you share this podcast with your friends and family. And may your dribble kick never hit the post. I'll catch you later. This has been episode 48 of A Yank on the Footy. Don't forget that you can reach me at yank_on on Twitter or at ayankonthefooty@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at A Yank on the Footy. Again, thanks for listening, and please consider sharing this podcast with your friends and family. Till next time, goodbye.